We're going to continue, and I hope complete consideration of legislation to update the Video Privacy Protection Act and the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. These are two key digital privacy acts that I actually helped initiate back in the 80s. And I've consistently worked to protect the privacy of Americans. Like many Americans, I'm concerned about the growing and unwelcome intrusions into our private lives in cyberspace. Intrusions that we would not allow if it was in the physical world, somebody just walking into our house and doing this, but it's happening more and more in cyberspace. I also understand we have to update our digital privacy laws if we want to keep pace with the rapid advances in technology. That's why I announced 2 years ago that I wanted to update ECPA, the Electronic Communications Privacy Act. I've worked diligently to do that. When we enacted the Electronic Communication Privacy Act in 1986, email was nothing like it is today. And back then, few would have imagined the way the internet and mobile technologies would transform how we communicate and exchange information today. But we sense a need, and this brought together Republicans and Democrats, we sense a need to contain the way surveillance was expanding and taking away our privacy. 3 decades after the enactment of ECPA, Americans face even greater threats to their digital privacy. We witnessed the explosion of new technology and the expansion of the government's surveillance powers. And I might say those powers are not just the federal government, but state governments. Today, the committee has an important opportunity to begin to address this privacy challenge. We do so after holding 2 hearings on this issue, having had the matter on the committee's agenda since September 13. So let me tell you, my bill takes several important steps to protect digital privacy rights while promoting new technologies like cloud computing. First, it updates the Video Privacy Protection Act to keep pace with how most Americans view and share videos today on the internet. It will allow American consumers, if they wish, to share their movie and television watching experiences through social media, while making sure that their essential privacies are protected. Secondly, the bill adds several common sense updates to the Electronic Communications Privacy Act that enhances privacy protections afforded to Americans' emails and other electronic communication. Specifically, the bill requires the government to obtain a search warrant based on probable cause to obtain the content of Americans' email and other electronic communication when those communications are requested from a third-party service provider. We certainly would expect that if the government wanted to come into our house and look what we have in our files on paper, it should be very much the same idea just because it's electronic. I think we have to eliminate the anachronistic distinction made in the law depending upon whether emails are more or less than 180 days old. The manager's amendment I've circulated, and I will offer today, and then the bill will be open to amendment, makes clear that the updates in the bill do not alter federal counterterrorism or other criminal laws. In response to requests from the Justice Department and others, the language allows some additional time for law enforcement to meet the notice obligations contained in the bill. I'm sensitive to wanting to protect the integrity of ongoing investigations and the work done by the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice protect consumers and their privacy from abuse by corporate interests as well. The bill will be true to its core purpose, strengthen the protection provided by requiring the government get a search warrant to obtain email content even from third-party providers. I recall that Senator Grassley initially expressed concerns about unduly burdening law enforcement and government regulators. I hope the language we're adopting today helps. If not, of course, I'll be open to work with him and anybody else on this. I've been trying to improve current laws since I first put forward proposals to update ECPA in early 2011. It's been my goal. I've worked hard to make sure these updates carefully protect privacy interests. During the past 2 years, I've consulted with leaders in the privacy, civil liberties, civil rights, and technologies communities, as well as the federal and state law enforcement. When this committee favorably reported Electronic Communications Privacy Act to the Senate on September 1986, I said it had bipartisan support. In fact, it had the unanimous support of all Democratic and Republican senators on the committee. The committee correctly recognized protecting Americans' privacy rights should not be a partisan issue. I've tried to make sure it's not. In fact, earlier this week, the director of the American Civil Liberties Union Washington Legislative Office joined with Grover Norquist, president of a group called Americans for Tax Reform. And they joined together calling on Congress to enact these important privacy updates. It's a pretty wide spectrum of support. Of course, there's 50 privacy, civil liberties, civil rights, and tech industry leaders from across the political spectrum who have endorsed the bill, and I will include these letters in the record. And many of you heard me say that my own home in Vermont, it's a long dead-end dirt road. They have hundreds of acres. We're joined by a neighboring farm, which is farmers, the family have known me since I was a teenager. They hay the field for us. Senator Klobuchar has been up there. She's seen where we are. And about the only thing I've ever saved from a newspaper written about me, actually framed, was an article of a reporter a Saturday morning driving up that road looking for me. The farmer is sitting on the porch. He says, Senator Leahy lived up this road. Farmer said, you a relative of his? He said, no. You a friend of his? Well, not really. He expecting you? No. Never heard of him. That's the way we like privacy in Vermont.